Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting today on a very wet and rainy day in Newcastle, looking out of the windows, but I believe there's snow coming later in the week, so that's a warning for us. Welcome Cabinet members, officers, and also people joining us online on YouTube. People online, if you want to see the agenda, there's a link underneath the video screen there. So I've got Cabinet members today with me. I've got Councillor Jill Heatham, Portfolio Holder, Community Safety and Wellbeing. I've got David Hutchins, Portfolio Holder for Sustainable Environment. Councillor Andy Fear, Portfolio Holder for Strategic Planning. Deputy Leader sitting next to me, Stephen Sweeney, who's also Portfolio Holder for Finance, Town Centres and Growth. And I'm Council Leader Simon Tagg. We have apologies today from Craig Scalding, who's our Portfolio Holder for Leisure, Culture and Heritage. So we'll note those apologies under item 1. Moving to item 2, we have declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest from members for the agenda before us? Not seeing any. Item 3 is minutes of the last meeting on page 5 to 10 from our last meeting, which was on the 16th of January. Can we agree those as a correct record? Okay. Item 4, as we've started our Cabinet meeting for 18 months, 2 years, is a Walleys Quarry Odour issues update. In the usual format, I'm going to ask our Chief Executive, Martin Hamilton, to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, as you say, this is a report that I guess has now been on the agenda for the best part of 2 years. And sadly, the figures that you see in the report for November, December and January show a significant downturn in the local conditions with regard to the odours from the Walleys Quarry site. And there remains a good correlation between the complaint data from the public and the hydrogen sulfide data that comes off the mobile monitoring facilities, the MMFs, that we see, and also what our own officers observe, which you will see set out in the report. So by way of context, January this year saw 668 complaints, which is the highest that we've seen now for many months. One of the things that we do when we're trying to respond to resident complaints about this is identify what we have classed locally as odour events. And this is where we see 10 or more complaints coming in a particular day. Over January, we had 22 such events. So on 22 days in January, we saw 10 or more complaints. And, you know, from the 1st of January, that was actually, there was 10 consecutive days. 13th to 19th, we saw 7 consecutive days where we were seeing 10 complaints or more. So quite a concentrated suite of issues coming up for the community in January. Our officers are out and about both during office hours and also out of hours, because members will be aware that the odours from the site tend to be most prevalent either first thing in the morning or late into the night, because they are significantly impacted by meteorological conditions, and are also most prevalent when there is still nights with little dispersion. So over January, we conducted 35 assessments on 9 different days, and on 24 of those, we noted distinct or strong landfill odours. The information that's set out in the report in terms of the mobile monitoring facilities, you remember these have now been recalibrated, so are given a more accurate set of information than we had previous to September last year. But I think there's 2 things of note here. One is we have seen in some of the weeks in instances where the annoyance threshold has been exceeded for sort of a third of the week. So, for example, 22nd to 28th of January, 37.8% of the time, MMF1 was recording levels that are above the annoyance threshold. I think the other thing that's of note here is that for a long time, MMF9 was the site that was giving us the highest readings, and I think that is now starting to give way to MMF1, where we've seen the highest readings in January. And I think that's probably due to sort of changes in the topography of the site, and also changes in sort of the wind direction and such like. So our own officers have been out, as I say, but we've also continued our engagement with Walleys Quarry and regarding the odours. And you will see set out in the report that we engaged with them formally following the November-December data, and we'll be doing so again on the back of the January data. But you will see that Walleys have advised that they are doing more work around temporary capping and extending the gas management infrastructure in order to try and address the issues that are being experienced. We've also have organised for our landfill expert and Wally's landfill expert to get together again and, if you like, compare their notes on this to see whether there's any breakthrough thinking that can be arrived at. So conditions coming from the site have been particularly bad November, December, January. January has been the worst for some time. We are continuing to build up our evidence base around this, and also engage with the site to make sure that they are doing all that they feel they can in order to address the issues.
Thank you, Martin, as ever, and thank you for, again, council officers for the work that they're doing on this. And I think the public do appreciate that. They know where responsibility for this lies, A, with the operator, B, with the Environment Agency. But it's really disappointing that complaints are up, that monitoring equipment is showing those higher levels. As you say, the cemetery site, first time for many times that is as the highest, and that's shocking. So the percentage of odours which are causing discomfort for people. Is there any information on when we're going to have a third monitoring station back? Because obviously the one by Silverdale pumping station on the lights was removed because I believe there was work being done by the water company, and it's really important that we do keep those three. We lost one obviously by the fire station, which everybody's aware of, because that was consistently showing zeros, and just to see what that will be showing now. But I think we really need to we were promised by the EA that we would have three. And is there any news on the return of that third one?
I know that the Environment Agency had identified a site and we're organising that, but I don't know that has actually managed to come to fruition yet. So they haven't got the third one up and running, but if you like, the commitment is still there to get the third one up and running.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Open up now to Cabinet members. Andy.
Thanks very much, Simon. It's again, like last time, this makes for depressing reading in a way, doesn't it? I'm afraid when we look at these figures, we all hoped that things were drifting in the right direction, and it seems that we've had really quite a sharp reversal of that. And last time we talked about the Environment Agency and a change, hopefully, of direction there. I think what we need to do now is see from the Environment Agency some action underneath the initial bluster to see, let's now see the colour of your money. And we talked a little bit about, closure notices and such like. And I think now, given that this is going in this direction, and when we talk about 37% and such like, it's worth remembering that's sort of almost 4 minutes out of every 10, isn't it? When you sort of bring it down to what that actually pans out to mean. So I wonder whether actually we should be saying to the Environment Agency, can you give us a reason why you're not going to issue a closure notice here? What are the reasons why you're not doing that? Because for the local people, and again, I think what you've said, Simon, is interesting. I mean, given the farce of the incorrect readings of these things, what would that third monitoring station be saying by the fire station? If there is a commitment to this and the Environment Agency is serious, why is there not now a third monitoring station already in place? So I do think we need to put a little bit of pressure in that direction.
Thank you. Steve?
It's like Martin said, we've been having this for 2 years, and I think we all felt, I know a year ago we were getting towards the winning line, and we're not. And it is very, very disconcerting the fact that it's not just a blip now, is it? It's more continuous than a blip. I know we're going to be left with this forever and a day. I agree entirely with what Andy says. You know, this monitoring station that we're waiting for them to put in should go straight back as soon as they can, and will they? And also, why not have the one back on the fire station? Because I'm sure that wouldn't be zero at the moment. But I just think it's deplorable. It's been on for so long, and people have got to live with this this smell of rotten eggs. It's just wrong. I lose faith, to be honest with you.
Okay, we also in the report, it makes reference to the fact that we're having a special council meeting on the 14th relating to a motion that's coming from the Labour group. I think when I read it, it's calling for suspension of the permit and work to be carried out by the operator to sort of resolve this stink. And I, as you've said, Andy, you know, we agreed at our last cabinet meeting that we call on the EA to issue a closure notice, which is a completely different thing that would end operations on the site and lead to other things such as capping and restoration. The EA would need to request that. So I think, you know, I don't think the motion before us next Wednesday goes far enough. So the Conservative group will be amending it relating to the fact that we wish to see a closure notice on the site, and that officers be obviously encouraged to continue their hard work on trying to resolve this. And obviously we have a process of abatement notice, which we can pursue, and we've already put £300,000 aside in the capital reserves for that, in the council's reserves for that. So an amendment will be coming in to that on Wednesday, which reflects the position Cabinet has taken in the past and actually goes a lot further than what the Labour amendment is looking to do. So unless there are any more speakers, I think we'll move to the recommendations. Note the comments of the report. I'd like to then add to that we ask officers to, as a matter of urgency, take up with the Environment Agency the timescale for the return of the third monitoring station on around the and that be encourage the EA to make a public statement on that as soon as possible. And 3, note that there is a motion from the Labour group coming to council, a special council meeting on the 14th, and that the Cabinet does not think that it goes far enough. And we reiterate or call on the Environment Agency to issue a closure notice on Walleys Quarry. All agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. We'll move then to item 5, which is Town Centre Regeneration Update. And Steve will come in a minute, but just my first preamble is to really welcome this report. It's the next step in the process of that regeneration in our town, using that money that's coming from central government, complementing that with council investment, bringing in nationally renowned companies and to invest in our town centre. I think this is something which we've been waiting a long time for. I'm glad to see that it's coming forward now. You can move to the next phase and get some concrete plans in place, and also some work starting on York Place pretty soon. We know that the car park, which is the key starting block on the Rycroft redevelopment, is now taking place and will be finished by the end of the year. But of course, we want other things on that site, and this report details, working with others such as Capital and Centric, but also McCarthy Stone and Aspire on bringing homes and commercial space and a hotel, hopefully, to the Rycroft. But really importantly is getting York Place kicked off as a regeneration opportunity, and also bringing proposals forward for the Midway, which of course will close when the new car park opened, which is the reason we are building a new car park as well, is it's a replacement for our aging facility there at Midway. So really pleased to bring this to us, and I'll hand over to Steve for more details.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, this is basically asking permission to take the 3 schemes up to planning permission delivery, which is the £2,649,000. So that's Midway, that's York Place, and it's the Rycroft, to bring it up to that level. As Simon says, the work is already going on a pace at the at the new multi-story car park. As soon as that's finished, we can shut the Midway. It's also given permission for York Place to be stripped out. Part of capital-centric sort of philosophy is not to just flatten things; it's to reuse things, if you like. So they're going to take all the innards out of it and leave the frame and build around that frame, which is an excellent idea. One other thing it points out on these papers is that the idea that there's a few people involved in this scheme. Obviously, there's ourselves. There's Captain Centric we hear about. There's also McCarthy Stone. There's also Aspire. There's also, I call them jewels. Some people say jowls. I prefer jewels. Brewery who've got a stake in it. So it's not just all eggs in one basket. But all this is just asking us now to release this money to reduce the planning so it go to planning permission. And I think we're looking at, I've just made a note here, 47 units on York Place, 106 on the Midway, and at the moment at least 55 places on the Rycroft. That's not including rather the McCarthy and Stone development and whatever capital centre come up. So there's more than that. But one thing we've said from day one really, that town centres, the days of town centres being lines of shops for everybody to go to are gone. Mainly, I think, probably thanks to the internet. So I think accommodation is a vital part of any town centre's future. And I think this is a really exciting scheme to bring people into the town centre, to shop in the town centre and to go out in the town centre and to live in the town centre. I think it reinvigorates our town centre. And I absolutely, totally support everything on it. Thank you.
Opening up now to Cabinet members. Andy first.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, this is, I think, very good news for us. It's nice to see that we're already getting stuck in with the car park. And I agree with what Steve said, that, getting York Place up and running is also going to be important here. Manifestly, there's a lot of money involved. There's no two ways about that. And again, I've listened very carefully to the way officers have presented this to me. And it seems to me, this is a good way of going forward. Now, we live in a bizarre world where apparently we can design any form of risk out of things. But if that was true, we would all live forever and I would be under the table worrying about a thunderbolt and things like that. There is risk here, but it is reasonable. And I know our officers work very, very hard on this and looking at it. And I think I trust their judgment that this is the right way forward. I also agree with Steve that being nostalgic is not the right way forward. The sort of town centre that was around when I was young has gone. I'm allowed to talk about that, be nostalgic, because I'm a historian. Now, it's part of my job to be like that. But part of my job here is not to look backwards, but to look forwards. And I think, again, my experience of having lived abroad in Spain, where a large town where people lived in the town centre, that was an excellent thing. It created a vibrant town centre. It actually creates trade as well. So I think the way we're going forward here, I think we can be confident that this will be money well spent. And I also think the end product will be very good for our town. And brutally put, if we worry about risk all the time, we will do absolutely nothing. And doing nothing is simply not an option. In fact, doing nothing is an option to go backwards.
Thank you, Andy. And a good point made there. And I think throughout the report, and obviously it details the risk is a lot lower in the route which we're taking, which is through the capital and centric route as well. And particularly when it comes to council borrowing, which of course Stephen next to me is really interested in as part of the budget setting process. And this makes it more affordable for us to get where we want to go, which is that regeneration of York Place, Midway and Rycroft. Jill.
Yeah, I welcome the development. Looking at the modelling with the accommodation and the proposed redevelopment, it looks like it would be really good for the town, particularly revitalising the town centre. I think we're right. We don't have to sit on our laurels and look to the past. We do have to look to the future and what is best for our town centre.
Thank you, Jill. Any other comments? No, we'll move to the recommendation. It's got a slightly amended recommendation, which I'll read out. The Cabinet notes the progress made to date by Capital and Centric on York Place, Midway Car Park and Rycroft projects in the town centre. And 2, subject to council approval of the funding set out in recommendation 3, to A, authorise the Deputy Chief Exec in consultation with the portfolio holder for town centres and growth portfolio holder for one council, people and partnership to progress the legal agreement to enable the appointment of Capital and Centric under 3 pre-development service agreements, PDSA, for the development of the 3 schemes through a direct award under the Pagabo Development Management Framework. B, authorise the Deputy Chief Exec in consultation with the 2 portfolio holders again to enable redevelopment work to be commenced on York Place through the Capital and Centric PDSA at a cost not exceeding £500,000, the cost of which is included in the overall budget. And then 3, recommend that Council approve expenditure up to 2.649 million to develop these 3 schemes to the end of the RIBA Stage 3 and the submission of planning applications. And of course, the result of 3 means that this will go to full council for decision on the 14th, given the size of the expenditure which we will be okaying. So all agree with those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. That moves us then to the next item, which is item 6, which is Revenue and Capital Budget Strategy 24-25. Steve's leading on this.
Thank you, Leader. This report presents the updated medium-term financial strategy, including the final proposals being considered to balance the 24-25 revenue budget and the proposed capital programme for 24-25 to 26-27 ahead of their presentation to full council on the 14th of February. It also includes the capital strategy, treasury management strategy, investment strategy, and commercial strategy. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a £2.692 million budget gap for 24-25 via a vigorous efficiency board process. They have been agreed with managers as being both feasible and sustainable, and these have been scrutinised by the Finance and Performance Scrutiny Committee without opposition. A major transformation programme, the One Council programme, commenced during 21-22, which involves an extensive redesign of organisational structures, processes and technology, underpinned by changes in culture, leadership and governance. Over £1 million of recurring savings. So recurring savings says every year is going to reduce this £1 million, have already successfully been achieved from the programme. The programme will continue to drive efficiencies through continuous reviews and developments of the council services during 24-25. A significantly below inflation council tax increase of 1.99% per Band D property is again proposed. This amounts to 8 pence a week or less for the vast majority of households within the borough. The savings identified enable a continued contribution of £250,000 to the Borough Growth Fund. This will continue to enable investment in the council priorities, including significant investment in boosting the sustainability of the environment within the borough and supporting development of the town centre. The General Fund Reserve will increase by £0.347 million as part of the council's strategy of ensuring both financial resilience and financial sustainability. This is in addition to the top-up of £200,000 to the Walleys Quarry Reserve for 24-25. After taking into account committed contributions from reserves to meet pressures such as the local plan, a net increase in the forecast level of reserves will be achieved during 24-25. The capital programme of 24-25 to 26-27 is based on new schemes which are vital to ensure continued service delivery and assisting the council to achieve its corporate and service objectives as set out in the council plan. These schemes total 41.2 million, of which 16.7 million relates to 24-25. This includes schemes funded from major investment into the borough successfully secured via the Town Deals Fund for both Newcastle and Kidsgrove. Delivering the capital programme for 24-25 will require prudential borrowing to be undertaken. The impact of borrowing is included in the MTFS. The proposals included in the report enable both a balanced outturn for 23-24 and a financially robust budget for the council for 24-25. Both help to ensure the council's continued financial sustainability and continue to protect services that our residents feel are most important to them. Now, talking about what residents feel most important to them, we've had the consultation on the budget. That's come through now. And I think the residents are looking at the things that are important to them. Town centre regeneration, which I think we've just been talking about. Culture and arts. Refuse collection. Parks, playground, open spaces, which I think we might talk about in a little while as well. So I think we're online. I think we're doing what our residents want, and I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Completely endorse what you said there. And this is a really good, balanced budget that we're taking forward. Just again, we'll go to recommendation to council on the 14th of February. What a night to have all those meetings on, isn't it? Valentine's night, but there you go. We love it. Is that we really, with this budget, we're showing that investment again, aren't we, in our town and in services for the people? And we just discussed in the item before about that massive regeneration of the town, but also through our Borough Growth Fund, which will be is it in its 5th year now? I think it is of delivering priorities such as through the sustainable environment, improving services through digitalisation of the council and economic development of our town centre. We're again putting funds into that this year again to boost each of those areas, and we'll be moving a recommendation just to put a bit more flesh on the bones to go into full council on, and I'll read those out now. In the sustainable environment area, we're looking to roll out rural carbon capture green spaces. We've already done that on 60 urban green spaces, protected them for environmental improvements and tree planting. We've already planted thousands of trees on them. We've now looked at our villages and rural edge of villages and looking at council-owned sites there, which we can again protect as carbon capture areas for the future and use for enhancements for the environment and tree planting. We've set our goal of reaching carbon neutrality by 2030. We have a plan for that. That will need to be funded, so we're putting money into that as well to get us to where we want to go by 2030. And we have our wider environmental sustainability plan, which again, putting more money into that to ensure as a key priority of the council, we push that forward. On a digital programme, we've already achieved a lot, as we've seen through our One Council programme, and we are pushing that forward, utilising more modern technology, enabling the right tools to be used not only by our staff, but also by our residents when they contact the council. We're not forgetting also the support for people that are still not digitally connected or don't want to be, but we do want to push forward our digital services agenda, and we'll be putting money into that as well. And also we have a strategy around technology, and that's to use the whole breadth of technology and also new technology that's coming forward, such as AI, which can transform back office and also front office in some respects in future years. And we'll be looking to put money into that and also into staffing resources to ensure we have a correct level of staffing in our customer services centre. And then finally, in economic development is that boost for the town centre again, and we're investing in supporting the market through its regeneration. And also we're again this year going to freeze market rental fees in order to support and retain market stall occupiers. And we've got some ambitious plans for our market over the next few months, and also hopefully announcing new markets coming into the market as well, which will events markets, which will add to the viability and vitality of the market. So really endorse the Borough Growth Fund again, and we'll move those recommendations to go to full council for more detail on how we're going to spend that funding. I'm just going to open it up now to cabinet members for any comments about the budget. I'm going to bring Steve back to talk about the extra 138,000 which we have had following the local government settlement. But open for views now. Andy.
Well, thank you, Simon. This again is a very good news story, isn't it? I mean, what we've got here is, as Steve said, a balanced budget, but one which directly addresses what residents in the borough want. And we've also kept down council tax. It's below inflation, and again, I would say personally, nobody really likes paying taxes, do they? So keeping taxes down is another thing that residents want. So obviously, an awful lot of hard work for an awful lot of time has gone into this. And, I'd like to thank our officers for working so hard to deliver this. But I do think it shows that this administration is doing exactly what it said it was going to do. And it's looking good for the future, I think.
Cute. And of course, as you say, Andy, keeping to that pledge of keeping keeping council tax as low as possible and below inflation with a 1.99% council tax rise, which we obviously committed to in our manifesto to be elected in 2022. David, obviously a lot in the sustainable environment area there. Any comment?
Yeah, I very much welcome the rollout of the rural carbon capture green spaces. It's going to be great to see them in Audley and in Madeley. I'm pleased we're committing the money to progressing towards the carbon neutrality by 2030. We are spending money wisely when we need to replace equipment and we basically replace when it's due to be replaced. We don't just replace because we want to be carbon neutral now. We have a plan. We realise we're spending residents' money and we're spending it very wisely.
Excellent point, David. Thank you. Going to bring Steve in now just to talk about obviously the extra money we've got on the settlement and how we intend to use that. Steve, over to you.
Okay, we had another £138,000. So we're going to do £100,000 into the general fund reserve, because our auditors suggest we put more money into reserve. So we're going to do that. And the other £38,000 is going to the small repairs fund to be established with a balance of 38,000, and this fund be utilised for repairs to council-owned footpaths, structures, and playgrounds, which is sort of infrastructure type jobs that can fall through the net. But I think our residents really welcome and will appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, completely endorse that. Obviously, as we've been through the budget setting process, we've obviously, when we initially had the settlement in just before Christmas, there was a bit of extra money in that for us, wasn't there? And since then, it's been clarified we're having this extra 138k. And I think it's quite right that we do put that into that general reserves. We know we've got our Walleys reserve, which we've got 300,000 in, which Cabinet endorsed at the last meeting. We do have another range of reserves as well to support the budget and other costs. But also, we've been obviously recommended in our annual report from the value of money element is to like all councils have been asked to do, to build up reserves. So I think it's quite right that we do put that into general reserve. That can be tapped into later for emergencies or whatever as we go forward. But at the moment, to build up our general reserves is a sound financial thing to do. And if you remember, Cabinet members, and I think also the public, when we inherited this council in 2017, there were, we seemed to be well below the level of reserves that we needed, and we've been slowly building them up over the last few years, as well as dealing with the once in a lifetime pandemic, as well as dealing with costs spiraling out of control with the cost of living crisis, and then also the Walleys Quarry issue of toxic odours, which we had to address and invest council's money into the abatement notice and other actions to on the back of our concern of our residents and to help them with that situation. And I really support the small repairs fund being established as well with the rest of the money. And I think there are, as Steve said, those jobs across the boroughs, whether on council-owned playground structures or footpaths that need to be repaired. And I really look forward to this going to full council, because I know there are councillors across the board that have got issues. I can think of one in Madeley about a pathway, and of course there'll be a chance to support getting that pathway sorted out at the full council meeting on the 14th through this extra funding that we're putting forward. And I think we have to ensure that is spread across the borough, and we do have a list of outstanding jobs that need to be done, which will be able to be addressed by this, but also we'll be able to do more than we plan to do as well with this extra £38,000. So that's a series of amendments there, really just detailing the Borough Growth Fund and also the use of the 138,000, which we add to the recommendations, which are to essentially forward the proposals now to council to vote on the 14th to set the budget, and with that low council tax increase of 1.99%. All agreed?
Agreed. Thank
you. We move then to item 7, which I'm just quickly trying to find the page, because we're already on 199 of the agenda because of the policies of the budget we just set through. And this, I'm really pleased also to bring this item, which is the IT data centre replacement, and really endorse the work that our head of digital has done on this. And I think it is a move in a direction to move away from physical data centres to those cloud-based data centres. And also that has 2 benefits for us. One, ultimately will save us money, but also it will cut down on our carbon emissions as well through having to operate and electrify data centres and backup centres. So the proposal is that we approve the migration of the council's application servers and infrastructure to Microsoft Azure, and authorise the Director for IT and Digital Service Director in consultation with myself as the portfolio to enter into a contract by direct award with Microsoft Azure partner to provide consultancy and training and support for this move. And I think as it sets out there and the reasons there, as I pointed out, it fits with our the element of our technology strategy, which we agreed in January, and also helps us towards our net zero target of 2030 by cutting the use of our electrifying physical data centres, which we will no longer have to do. So I recommend to Cabinet that they endorse that. Open it up to any comments. Steve? Seen no responses then, not even from Steve. So move the recommendations. All agreed?
Agreed.
Next item is the procurement of the council's long-term agreed insurance provider. And Steve, I believe you do have something to say on this one.
What you just done, Simon. The council's portfolio of insurance policies are due to expire on the 27th of February 2024 and are therefore subject to a tender process. The council's insurance broker, Marsh Limited, has supported the council in the delivery of the procurement based on their long-standing knowledge and expertise within the public sector insurance market. Per the insurance broker's advice, the Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation framework has been selected. This framework is widely used by other local authorities, gives a speedy route to procurement compliance, and gives the council access to in excess of 50 suppliers across a range of insurance categories. Use of the insurance providers as a part of the framework will generate a £40,000 saving to the council based on its existing insurance costs. I'm therefore happy that Cabinet note the procurement process adopted by officers and that officers are authorised to award contracts via the insurance broker to the most economically advantageous tenders utilising the Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation framework.
Thank you. Any comments? Not really, Steve, no. Any other comments from Cabinet members on this? Obviously, Steve's read the recommendations out to get this long-term agreement for insurance providers in place. All agreed? Thank you. We move then to item 9, which is procurement of Streetscene, a mobile multifunction MMF vehicle and plant. And David's going to lead on this for us, David.
Yes, thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to gain Cabinet approval to replace the current fleet of Streetscene 3.5 tonne pickups and the 4.5 tonne pickups using the TPPL, which is the Procurement Partnership Limited. Now, the current fleet of the Streetscene pickups were procured in 2016, I think, and are scheduled in the Borough Council's fleet replacement programme to be replaced now. Additionally, the Borough Council fleet of ride-on grass-cutting mowers are scheduled for replacement in the next 12 months. Additional mowers to work on the urban grass verges will take the Borough Council's ride-on mowers up to 9 in total, which is good. In section 1.2 of the report, you will read that the current fleet consists of 6 4.5 tonne crew cab pickups and 4 3.5 tonne single cab pickups. The current Streetscene fleet, as I said, was procured in 2016 and is now 7 years old and due for replacement before the costs start to escalate. The Mobile Multifunction Team, or the MMF team as we know it, was set up in 2023 and is currently utilising hire vehicles, which is not financially sustainable in the long term. So it's proposed that we procure 2 3.5 tonne pickups for the MMF team, making that 12 new vehicles or pickups in total. There will be possible income from the sale of the existing fleet of the vehicles, which I'm sure Councillor Sweeney will be happy with. This is difficult to predict this amount as the market does continually fluctuate. However, the market is very good at the moment for selling the second-hand vehicles. So hopefully that will bring in some income. But as I said, difficult to predict how much. When the current fleet was procured, there were no options for electric vehicles. They weren't really an option in 2016. So the current fleet that we're proposing will basically, the current fleet at the moment generate about 51.8 tonnes of CO2 a year. The new fleet will be 6 electric powered vehicles and 6 vehicles using the hydro-treated vegetable oil instead of the white diesel. This will give us a carbon reduction of 48.67 tonnes, which will give us a 94% reduction every year ongoing in our carbon emissions. This is great news for the Borough Council's net zero target by 2030. Finally, Leader, I just want to mention that the Borough Council is already considering the installation of the necessary and appropriate electric charging infrastructure down at the depot. This is currently being considered and actioned through the joint project with 3 other local authorities and in-house operational services in the Staffordshire Waste Partnership, and it's due to be completed sometime in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Opens up to comments now on this investment in our obviously street scene capabilities. Steve.
Investment in cutting grass on grass verges. What's not to praise on that? So I absolutely support. There's 2 new rows coming in. I absolutely support that. That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. So recommendations before us that we approve that direct process as has been set out by through the framework that's been set out by David, and also the procurement of those mowers through the mini competition process, and then also our street scene and 2 MMF 3.1 pickups are replaced by electric driven vehicles, obviously driving us in that direction of net zero by 2030, as David pointed out. So a good report. All agreed? Thank you. Next item, item 10, is the War and War Widowers pension disregard top-up. Steve.
Yeah, this is something the auditors picked up. It's something we do. We've been doing it for years and years and years. I think all authorities do it. But when they asked, have we got something in writing saying we do it, we couldn't find anything because it goes back so many years. And I think, again, local authorities, it's 20, 30 years ago, whatever. So they've asked us to do something in writing to say we do it. What it actually amounts to is that when you get your war widow or widower's pension, that is disregarded for council tax reduction and housing benefit entitlement. That money that you get, that doesn't exist. You get the money, but you don't include it in the figures. There's only 6 or 7 people in the borough who get this money, but it's not something new. It's just something we need to have in writing. So the next time somebody looks at it, we say, yeah, we've got a policy here, and this is all this is. It's nothing new. It's nothing we've not been doing for donkey's years, but it's just something we have to show that we've gone through the proper process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from cabinet members? So it is a tidying up exercise, isn't it, and putting it on the books officially, which is a good thing. And obviously, everybody endorse. Yep. Thank you for that. Next item is our corporate enforcement policy 2024, and it's on page 221. We can get further on in the agenda. Just find it myself. Yep. So really pleased to bring this. I think a couple of months ago or before Christmas, we brought our planning enforcement policy, which touched on those enforcement areas around the planning process, which are vitally important. We've got a good policy in place for that now. This is really key for the rest of the enforcement activity that the council carries out, whether that's in David's area, in the street scene and the parks maintenance and all sorts of things, whether it's in licensing with you, Steve, around fines, etc., and also in Jill's area as well, in community safety and well-being as well. So really pleased to bring this, and we get this on the books. But I'll open up to cabinet members now for their views. First of all, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was first done in 2018, and say it's now 2024. If I just read you a little bit out of the thing, I think it really encapsulates what we're talking about. However, effective regulation promotes economic growth and prosperity and protects individuals, the community, and the environment from harm. The revised policy recognises that this is achieved more effectively through cooperation with the community, individuals, and forging closer links between regulators and businesses, which I can't agree with enough, really. The reason it's got to come in is on 4.1. It says that this updating to include new sections. So there's a section on civil penalties, section on bankruptcy and winding up petitions, and a section on mediation. And it's 6 years, and it's about time it was looked at, and obviously it's doing. And again, I absolutely support it. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Once again, a council moving forward, looking to the future. This was last done in 2018, and I think it was right that we do it today. We want a fair and effective enforcement. It's essential that we have that for the economic interests and protection of the public, the businesses, and of course the environment. I think if you read the report, we can see clear information on standards, openness, proportionality, consistency, transparency, and of course accountability. And I'm really pleased to read the section on the fixed penalty notices, which I know we've ramped up recently. And I've learned from the MMF team today that 80% of the fixed penalty notices that we're giving out, we're actually getting the money for. So it's there as it's good they're trying to prevent the people from dogfiling, dropping litter, waste, disposing where they shouldn't dispose. So it's good. I welcome this report.
Jill.
Obviously, I endorse a lot of what my colleagues have said because some of that does overlap with my part of the enforcement policy. I do welcome an up-to-date policy. It's only right that we do bring it up to date, which allows our officers, our MMF team to work within the boundaries of that. And it's excellent news that we are having quite a high proportion of the fixed penalty notices paid, which shows that the evidence gathering and everything the multi-function team do is working.
Thank you. So the recommendation before us is that Cabinet approves the Corporate Enforcement Policy 2024 for the Borough as attached to Appendix A to the report, and the Cabinet agrees the enforcement policy be presented to Council. I believe that's going to be at our April meeting, isn't it, for formal approval and adoption. All agreed? Thank you. Our next item then is our Finance and Performance Review Report, third quarter 23-24. First part of it is the finance update, and Steve's going to handle that first and foremost.
I'll just point out to somebody really that the amount of information we include on this now is worth looking at now. There's pages of facts and figures, which we've done because, say, before we're an open and transparent council, we've got no secrets, so the information is all here, and I encourage people to read it. The big thing for me, and the thing that really floats my boat, is the fact that at the moment we've got a positive variance of £22,000 on the revenue budget. When we're in February, so there's only 6 weeks to go for the year, and I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't balance that by the end of March, which I think is an excellent achievement with the current climate. And there's a little positive variance on the capital budget as well. But no, that's the main highlight for me on this. It always is that we're spending where we should be.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Steve. Any comments on the finance side of it? We'll go now to the performance side of it. I think we've seen a bit of a tick down in the amount percentage of increase of indicators that are on target. There are reasons for that as we go through, which will be self-explanatory. But looking at from page 261 onwards, we'll go through this, and I'll call in Cabinet members to give a rundown on the performance in their areas. So moving to our first priority, this is one council delivering for local people. On the first page there, we've got a series of greens there for David initially, and then for Steve on housing benefit claims. Any comments on those? Not seeing any. Okay. Over the page, we've got a couple of reds there. And I think obviously the average number of days employees lost to sickness has been one where we've been missing the target for consistently for a number of months, probably into a year or so now. But it is beginning to go in the right direction now. I think we can see that. So we've seen the trend now developing. And also we've seen that we've had a lot of discussion about the reasons for sickness, absence, and also scrutiny's had a drill down into it in a report a couple of months ago as well. But we are seeing that is going in the right direction. Hopefully interesting to watch over the next couple of quarters whether that trend continues as we get out of the winter period and into the spring period. Of course, sickness is always worse in the winter period as well. Next one is the first time that this has gone on red, staff turnover. But you will see in the comments there that as a result of dealing with some of the longer term sickness issues, that has led to staff leaving the council. That has led to an upturn in the staff turnover rate. So nothing to be seriously worried about there. I think it is slightly off target there, but there has been some churn because of dealing with, through our policies, the sickness absence rates on that one. Staff vacancy and accidents are staying on track. Moving then to the next page, which is a number of customer service ones there, all on green. That's customer hub requests, that's calls, that's percentage of tax collected, and also non-domestic rate collections. Any comment on those, Steve? Just it's staying green and good?
Yes. It's excellent, basically.
Yes. And on the next page is we have the number of digital online transactions staying green and going up, which is key to things we discussed earlier relating to digitisation and also pushing better services and ways of interacting with the council for the public on a digital format. And then we've got Customer Hub and also the use of the website there, which are showing encouraging signs. Moving on to the next page, we have series of indicators now on the recycling area, and I'll bring David in because there is a few reds here. David.
Yes, I'm a bit disappointed that we've had a slight dip. However, in 1.1, we've only 20.76% of households have been putting out dry recyclable waste, and in 1.4b we have the 33% only have been putting out food waste. I just want to point out that over the quarter, this is in 2 weeks. So what we did, we selected 2 weeks at random, and then we looked to see what percentage of the dry recyclable waste was put out and what percentage of households put out the food waste. Now, I know dark nights, dark mornings, I didn't put my food bin out every week. And I know possibly we didn't put out the blue bin every week either. If it wasn't full, we kept it in because it was cold outside. So I think this is just a snapshot over the quarter. It only looks at 2 weeks, and I'm sure it's going to bounce back in the next quarter. We have a green one then, which is good. Then we have another red one, which was 63.26 missed collections per 100,000 during the quarter. Now, I'm aware of a few reasons: blocked streets with cars, replacement crews not being aware of procedures for opening gated areas, so they didn't manage to collect. So there has been a little bit of staff training done in that area. But if I just look at the 63.26 collections that were missed per 100,000, we actually collect about 500,000 collections per month. So over the quarter, the crews will collect 1.5 million different collections. So when we look at that 63.26 per 100,000, that says that our success rate for collections was 99.94%, which again, the 63.26, although it's high, we're going to try and make sure we fix that next quarter. It's still not a lot. It's 0.06%.
Thank you. So we go over the page. Any more? For any more, David?
We have a green again, which is good, which is the level of litter on the streets. And again, we select streets at random, and then we go out to those streets and we accurately record what we see, and we do that 2 or 3 times in the quarter. We have an 86.25 red for detritus in the streets during the October, November and December period. There were a lot of complaints about leaves coming down because of storms. If you remember, during the quarter just gone, we had Storm Babbitt, Storm Kieran, Storm Debbie, Storm Ellen and Storm Fergus. And there were many times that the leaves all just came down whoosh at once. So it was sometimes difficult for the crews to keep up when things like that were happening. We did have a few previous sweeper fleets that machines that were unreliable. This has now been resolved. And again, I'm sure that's going to bounce back next quarter.
Thank you. Moving then to our second priority, which is a successful and sustainable growing borough. First page there is on the investment portfolio and also on the, before we get on to the planning ones, any comment on the first one, Steve?
I think it's very encouraging that it's below target, because the certain members of this council think half our properties are empty, and that's nice to see that actually they're not.
Okay, good point. And then we've got a series in the planning arena there for Andy.
Yeah, and I think they're pretty much a good news set of targets, aren't they? Virtually everything is green and well green, many of them. One where there's a little bit of a wobble is complainants in form with the timescale, but as the little bit on the side points out, we are addressing this with the One Council programme. There have been new procedures put in place, so hopefully that is a very, very slight bump on the road.
Thank you. And then we now move to active and safe communities, where we've got a series of indicators there in Jill's arena relating to antisocial behaviour. Jill.
Obviously with antisocial behaviour, it'd be lovely to give you some really positive news. What I can say is that work continues with the range partner agencies. There are weekly meetings that are actually dealing with them in a very timely manner. So I'm quite pleased with how it's progressing at the moment.
Thank you. And then there's a series there on the next page relating to Craig's portfolio, which I think is encouraging, relating to the museum collections, and also the J2 membership growth. We do have a customer satisfaction tick down there on the on J2, but it explains that in the comments section there. And then we're back to you, Jill, for the housing and homelessness indicators.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, it's a bit of a challenging portfolio. There is an increasing demand for social housing, and we are working with those individuals. What I can say is certainly with our rough sleepers, we have got a positive outcome there, particularly reducing to 5 are in the Stoke area, and it's left us with 4, I think. We haven't got many rough sleepers, or in this particular quarter we haven't, which just shows how well everything's working with the rough sleeper team. And when the homelessness hub is open, I would see that reducing. Is that it?
Oh, thank you, Jill. And then we move to our final priority, which is town centres for all. And we've got indicators there on the number of tickets purchased for the car park, footfall, and also market occupancy, and also the average occupancy for special markets. Any comments, Steve?
No, it's all good news, and come to the market.
That's one of your shortest responses over the market. But I think key to this, you've seen the number of tickets purchased in car parks going up. So that's more people coming into town. We're also seeing the footfall on a trajectory over the quarters that's increasing as well for us. And also the market, which we wish to see, that vitality of the market that is ahead of the investment we're putting into it as well over the next year or so as well. So we're heading in a good direction on the markets, and those specialist markets are really key to the future of the market. And we have more news on that coming in the future about increasing that, which is really good. So that's the last of the portfolio priorities broken down as the portfolios. So the recommendation is that we were to look at the performance and monitor that. We have done that. All agreed? Thank you. We now move to our forward plan, which is, again, a jump forward on 283 on the agenda. And as usual, we'll go through this page by page. The first couple of pages detail this cabinet meeting, the February one, but also then on page 286 at the bottom there, we're looking at our March meeting where we'll have a re-award of the contract for Wammy's changing room. And then on the next page, we've got a series of items that are coming to the March cabinet: Newcastle Town Deal, Digital Infrastructure Update, Tree Biodiversity Management Plan, Staffordshire Leaders Board Terms of Reference, Walleys Quarry Update. And then we go to our April meeting where we'll be refreshing the Sustainable Environment Strategy Action Plan to take into account our net zero 30 targets. And then Kidsgrove Town Deal awarding of the shared services and garage replacement, and then EV charging points for Castle Car Park, and then also taxi metered fares and Sports England swimming pool grant to Kidsgrove Sports Centre, which is a really good news story. And also Walleys Quarry, we'll be looking at a report on that, updating us in April. All agreed the forward plan? Agreed. Looking at urgent business, don't have any. Looking at disclosure exempt information, we do have just a brief report on the confidential agenda related to the data centre replacement, which is some commercially sensitive stuff. So we'll move in a moment to a closed session. I have not had any requests from the public or from cabinet members from other councillors to speak at this meeting. So I will now move item 15 to resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the report on the IT data centre replacement, because it's likely that there will be a disclosure of exempt information as defined under the relevant Local Government Act 1972 provisions. All agreed?